Hello and welcome to another episode of A Gay in the Life.
I'm Blake.
And I'm Garrett.
And today we have a very special guest with us from the Two-Spirit community. Please welcome John. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Mm-hmm. And I'd heard about the term Two-Spirit. Did you know what it was?
I actually had never heard the term until Blake told me that you contacted him.
We're very excited to learn.
Yeah.
First of all, thank you for doing this. This just really means a lot to the Two-Spirit community and, just the LGBTQ alike.
If you could just kind of give us an introduction to Two-Spirit and what it means exactly.
Okay, well, let me do it the right way, because this is how we do it in my homelands and all the Indian communities. Apache John Sneezy San Carlos and San Ayun. So that means my name is John Sneezy. I am from the San Carlos Apache Reservation. The term Two-Spirit came in the 1990s from Canada with a group of the LGBTQ. I believe it's in the Winnipeg territory. And so they had gotten together, and instead of calling themselves LGBTQ, because it was so long, they looked at the characteristics of a Native American lesbian or gay. And so most of the lesbians and gays, they had the capabilities of having male characteristics and female characteristics in a sense of their everyday life. So that's how they came up with the word Two-Spirit. For me, I use it because it actually tells the story of my life. In my family, there's only brothers. There's 4 boys. So my parents, whenever we were growing up, back then, it was always the boys do chopping wood, the outside work, all the manly stuff. And then the girls do the inside housework, dishes and stuff. But in our family, we couldn't do that. Because
there were 4 boys. So there were 4 boys, so you kind of had to take all the chores that were needed and find a way to make it work. Were you the only, I guess, child in the family who was taught kind of the female chores?
It wasn't that they designated me. It's just that I did it better than the other 3.
That's amazing.
But going back to the Two-Spirit, so I was learning how to do all these things. And so as I was growing up, my mother and my aunt were cosmetologists. Mm-hmm. So they had a beauty shop. So I was always around, my mother and my aunt. So, and my grandmother, I was always around my grandmother. Mm-hmm. And so I grew up learning the ways of what my grandmother did and my mother did. And a lot of what you see on my Instagram, a lot of it was taught to me by my grandmother. Growing up, I got into powwows too.
Can you explain, just for people who never have heard of a powwow? Because you and I have talked about it a little bit, but what is a powwow and what does that mean?
So a powwow, it's just a celebration of dancing. They have many different types of dances for both males, females, adults, elders, children. They have different categories like the men's Northern Traditional, the men's Southern Traditional, women's Northern Traditional, Southern Traditional, brass dance, jingle dress, and they all have the meaning. And the jingle dress is actually a healing dance where they use back then. In the Ojibwe way, the medicine man had dreamt of this dress to heal, and so they had to have a certain amount of tin cones on this dress, and they had to dance a certain way. So a lot of our dances are for healing purposes, but for the powwows now, we actually get together and we do have dance competition.
Oh, cool!
And it's all just great camaraderie that we share with one another. It's a chance to for us to be with our friends, our family, to meet new people. So the best way I could say about getting more information is powwows.com, www.powwows.com, or the gatheringofnations.com. Gathering of Nations is the biggest powwow in North America.
I do have a quick question about something that you mentioned in your questionnaire, actually, is, because we're talking about ceremonies and powwows and things that you were learning from your family. Something you mentioned was that you and your mother couldn't go to
like religious
ceremonies. To like
religious.
Your father wouldn't let you go to religious ceremonies. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah. One day, I don't know how it happened, but he just decided that our Apache ceremonies wasn't for him anymore, and so he became a Lutheran. And so, because of that, growing up, we couldn't go to the ceremonies. We have a ceremony that's puberty rite ceremony for the girls whenever they have their first menstrual cycle. They have a feast and a ceremony for 4 days or nights. And my mom, because my father's rule that we couldn't do it, he had to turn down a lot of the girls' mothers or grandmothers that came to give the stone. And then in 2005 or 4 or 5, I believe, my grandmother talked to her and told her, you're an elder lady now. You shouldn't be saying no to these girls when they need you. That's what it's for. That's why the other parents come to you. They look up to you, and that's how it is. When you do these ceremonies, you pick like a mentor. Yeah, so I mean, we still do it. I mean, the boys still get taught, the girls still get taught. So it hasn't died out. It will never die out, because there's people like me on the reservation that still practice the traditions and culture. Yeah.
So Two-Spirit essentially means someone who carries kind of a masculine and a feminine energy within them. Is that correct?
Yes.
If you identify as a male and you are Two-Spirit, do you necessarily have to be gay or homosexual? Or can you be a Two-Spirit individual who kind of has these masculine and feminine energies, who
maybe has like a fluidity within their sexuality?
Yeah.
So let's go back to the Apache word for gay, which is nakle. When you say the word nakle, it's actually saying who they are. That's how it was translated to me. So, if somebody were to say to me, "Nakle," which means he is the way he is, that's basically what that word meant. And now, because they had to find a word for gay, that's what. But there was never a word for lesbian. It was only for a guy who was that way.
Right.
It wasn't derogatory back then. So to answer that question, and this is for me, and the reason why I say it's for me, because the term Two-Spirit, it's an individual usage of the word. It could mean, what it means for me could totally be different for somebody else.
It represents something different in everyone.
Exactly. And that's the beauty about Native Americans using the word Two-Spirit, because I'm not put in a box. The word is put in a box, but the word means so much, and it means it's an individuality trait of who that person is.
It's kind of like the way queer has been a bit streamlined for like a commercial sense, where queer can represent and feel and mean so many different things to an individual. Is that what you're equating Two-Spirit for someone in the Native American community?
Well, okay, so for me, I grew up in the era where queer was a very bad derogatory word, and it was used to put me down. I mean, just it was really, really horrible. I mean, I've been called it by relatives, people who I thought were my friends. It was, so I don't really accept that. I personally don't accept it. And it's funny because the LGBT community, we have a really hard time with just understanding people who they are. Like, the first thing we ask is, "Oh, are you gay? Oh, are you transgendered?" And that's not the way I want to know a person. If I find a person interesting, I would want to say, "Hey, what's your name? Where are you from?" And for me, for me to come out and ask people about what they, about their sexuality openly,
Right.
it's in my traditional upbringing, you don't ask those things. That's not polite. I'm telling you guys of the upbringing of why, my Two-Spirit so much. And that's part of the reason why, is because it defines sexuality. It doesn't define who I love. What it defines is me as an individual person.
Thank you so much for joining us this week on A Gay in the Life. I'm Garrett.
And I'm Blake. And thanks so much to our special guest, John, for educating us about Two-Spirit.
Thank you. It was good to be here. I really appreciate it. And as we say in Apache, we don't have a word for bye. We say, "Enautzidalesh," which means I'll see you later.
Absolutely, you will. Thank you so much, John.
Thank you.